Hello guys, welcome to my first ever YouTube channel. I am Chrissy and welcome to Cee The Counsellor. So, this YouTube channel is going to be all about advice, mental health and education regarding counselling and psychology. Before I begin and get into today's video, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about myself and who I am. So obviously my name is Chrissy and C is short for Chrissy, and obviously it's a good play on words, Cee The Counsellor. So I'm currently a trainee counsellor at a university in London. I'm doing my masters for 3 years in order to get my qualification to be a counsellor in the UK. And I started this channel because I want other people to know that counselling is not really how it's put out in the media or what people think it is. I feel like there's a lot of stigma around it and there's a lack of knowledge on how counselling works and the process of it. And I want to kind of give you guys an education on how it really works and give you guys the inside and make it less of a stigma to kind of seek counselling and get help through counsellors. Also noticed that in my training there's a lot of older people who do counselling, a lot of older white people, and that leaves a lot of room for other cultures who can't then be exposed to counselling or feel like they can't go to counselling because they are not going to see someone like them on the other side of that. And so for me, I feel like it's really important to not only show young people but someone who's black as well that you can become a counsellor, and that there are counsellors who look just like you who you can go to. So I feel like counselling, mental health in general is such a taboo topic in the Asian community, in the African community, and it's something that I really want to break boundaries and limits on. So that is the main reason I started this YouTube channel. And I've wanted to be a counsellor for a few years now. It's something that kind of I came to realise when I was in first year of university that I wanted to become a counsellor. But I'm not going to lie to you, I was put off because I looked at the cost of it and the time that it would take me to get qualified versus going into another venture within psychology. I was like, do I really want to put myself through all of that when I can just like get my qualification quick and start a job and a career quick? Because I want to settle down, have kids and get married. So but I can't lie to you, my heart just kept getting pulled to counselling, so I kept on and I changed my mind and I was like, you know what, let me pursue this because this is the only thing that makes sense to me. It's the only thing I really can see myself doing amongst other things on the side, but as a career this is where my heart is at. So for me, I did my psychology degree in Leicester, and now I'm doing my masters in integrative counselling and psychotherapy. So on to today's video: how to become a counsellor or a therapist in the UK. So obviously everything I'm going to talk about is from my perspective and it's going to be from my personal experience and how the UK qualifies counsellors and therapists. I can't speak for any other countries or other nations and how they do it. And I'm going to be talking specifically about the route through masters because there are other ways to get there without doing a masters, but still similar. So I'm only going to be talking about the costs and the experiences from a master's perspective as well. So step 1 to becoming a counsellor, you need to do what is known as an introduction to counselling course. It's very small, very short. It's only about 8 to 12 weeks, and you can normally do these courses in a college or in a higher education learning centre or an adult education centre. Once you've done your introduction to counselling, I guess you'll know what it kind of entails, and then you can decide if this is the right step for you, if this is what you want to do, and then you can move forward and continue. So step 2 is to then do an counselling skills diploma or counselling skills certificate starting at level 2. However, this might vary. If you've already done a degree in psychology or other social science, you might be able to not do a level 2, you can kind of jump straight onto a level 3, which is what I did. But traditionally, I guess if you've never done anything at university to do with the social science, you would need to do a level 2 certificate, and then you can do your level 3 and then your level 4. Each of these courses is usually about a year, part-time, so you would probably go in only once a week. I only went in once a week, in the morning. Some places offer the course in the evening, so there'll be like a morning group and an evening group, and the classes tend to be very small, only about 12 to 16 people, depending on obviously how many people apply, but they don't accept more than, I believe, 20 people per course. Unfortunately, the course is quite expensive. It's you can get a loan, but I self-funded only because I was working at the time, so I wanted to just pay for it rather than accrue more student debt. So this course is also available in colleges, and one thing I need you to make sure if you are going to apply for this is to make sure that the college or the university that's doing the course is accredited. Wherever you go, just make sure it's accredited. If they haven't stated so on their website, call them or email them and just ask if they're accredited by the BACP, because if your course is not accredited, it makes it harder for you to move on to the next step, and it makes it even harder for you to become registered, because then you kind of have to fill in the gaps in order to then become accredited later on. So that's step 2. For me, I did like I said, I didn't do level 2, I just went straight on to level 3 because my tutor said, you know, you've already got a degree in psychology, so you would understand. And at university I also did a module in counselling, which kind of made my decision to take on counselling a bit more solidified. So that helped me, and I did mine from September 2019 to March 2020 and cut short because of the pandemic, and it started at that time. Lockdown had just started, the first lockdown, so we moved on to online classes, but they stopped it after like 2 weeks because it was so difficult, and we just needed to be in person. You know, we have a lot of discussions, we have triads, and we have, like, you know, practical work to do within the sessions, which just couldn't materialize online. So luckily they did allow us to pass, and we got our certificates and we moved forward. So after level 3 you can do a level 4, but most universities will accept a level 3. So if your next step is to then get your master's like I'm doing, you don't necessarily have to do a level 4 unless you really want to. That's also going to be another year, and it's also going to be another cost. My course cost me just over £2,000, I believe, I can't remember fully. So in the level 2 to level 4 you'll normally have a tutor who's obviously a registered counsellor or accredited counsellor already in the UK, and what you'll do within the course is learn counselling skills, things like listening, silence, and you'll also learn how to kind of practice being a counsellor and a client. So you do what's known as triads or dyads, where you work and you take on the role of a counsellor or a client, and you practice the skills that you've been learning, whether it's listening or silence or paraphrasing, summarizing. You learn these skills and you put them into practice in your groups of 2 or 3, and you know, you bring in issues, whether they're real or fake or made up. You can bring any issues and you kind of talk to them, and then you get feedback. So that's something that we had to do every single week, and it helps us a lot. So you learn counselling techniques, and I don't want to give too much away because I'll explain those in further videos, but you learn counselling techniques and you apply them, and then you kind of grow. And the good thing about this course is that there are no exams whatsoever. You just have an assessment where you kind of do as you go along. So we were given a booklet where we had all of the learning objectives that we had to fulfill, and we kind of we had homework, I guess, to do, where we would do certain things to show that we had learned. And then we also had to do a reflective journal after every single week to kind of show your personal growth, write about like your personal experience, what you're learning as a person, as a professional, as a trainee, what you're learning and how you're growing, and things that you're finding easy, things that you're finding difficult, and you kind of just journal professionally, I guess, what you're going through in your journey, and then you submit those, and then you get your grade back. And it's not really like a grade, you either pass or fail, and they might maybe ask you to redo certain things if they can see that you haven't fulfilled certain learning objectives, but there are no exams, so that's definitely a plus, and I was very happy about that. Step 3 to becoming a counsellor is your core practitioner training, of which you can do by either going through the BACP or you can go to a university. So I'm currently doing my master's at a university, and the course is 3 years, unfortunately. I wish it was 1 year like every other master's, but yes, for counsellors and therapists in the UK the master's is 3 years. of which it requires you to go to placement in second year and third year. You are required to do your personal therapy throughout the whole 3 years. So you need to do 35 hours of personal therapy each year, and it's signed off at the end of the year, and you show it to your tutor. And you also go into uni once a week. I go into uni once a week from 10 till 5, and you do all your work then. Now, masters for this course tend to be quite competitive, but with good reason, because they take on, you need a lot of small groups. So on my course actually, we have 60 people, but we are split into smaller groups after the lectures, and into groups of 16 I believe, maybe. So there's not a lot of us compared to, I guess, like your usual courses. So in third year you do a dissertation. There's no exams in any of the years. You don't do any exams, you just do assessments throughout the year. Some of the assessments are just like your normal 2,000, 3,000 word essays, and then other times you're required to do like video recordings in a session with a client, and do transcriptions and analyze your sessions, what techniques you use, what you think you did good, what you think you did bad, just for the sake of reflecting on your own work. So if you're thinking of going down the master's route, your entry requirements will typically be having a degree in psychology or a social sciences of some sort. It will also be having a level 3 or level 4 counselling skills diploma certificate, and also helps to do a job where you are in a helping role or working with vulnerable adults. So for me, I fit the criteria. I still work in a hospital, a mental health hospital, so I work with vulnerable adults. So if you work like in a helping role of some sort, maybe like a phone line for a crisis, a helpline crisis, that would be good as well. So those are the main entry requirements for most of the universities. But of course, if there's a specific university you want to go to, always good to check what the entry requirements are before you apply. And then once you've applied, I recommend applying quite early, because applications do tend to close quite early. They close about January or February, sometimes March. So if you're applying, if you want to start like the next September, you would have already finished your applying by January or February of that year, and then interviews are later on. They start around March and they finish maybe around June, I believe. And for me, I had a few interviews and they were quite strange. The interviews are not your typical interviews. They're not your typical sit down interviews and and basically big yourself up. They were very odd. They obviously wanted to see what kind of person you are. They wanted to see the essence of who you are, so that your nature as a counsellor comes across to them as much as possible. So I remember one of my interviews, the person who started the convener of the interview, it was on video call, unfortunately, because of the lockdown. So I remember that interview, they said hello, introduced themselves, and said, can you all introduce yourselves, because it was a group interview as well, which is also strange. Group interview, and they said, okay, introduce yourselves, and then they didn't speak for the rest of the interview. I think it was about an hour and a half. So they basically left us to talk by ourselves. And they were on the call as well. They didn't say anything. Occasionally we'd ask, like, do you guys want us to talk about something in particular? Do you guys want us to do something in particular? And they did not respond. They just left us to keep talking and talking and talking. And then when it was time for the interview to end, they just said, oh, sorry, we have to end the interview here, and that was it. So it was a strange interview. Another interview, they did ask me to kind of play the role of a counsellor, and they had to be the role of a client, and it was very, very on the spot. It was like I was staying at Airbnb, and it was like 10 a.m. in the morning, and I just had to quickly get myself together and do it. So yeah, be prepared for some very strange interview processes. So the other option is to obviously do a doctorate, which is also 3 years, I believe. I did originally apply for a PhD, but you need a lot of experience in order to get straight onto your PhD without doing a master's. So I obviously couldn't, and I didn't have the experience for that. That's something I'm still considering to do in the future, but for now I can't. So those are your 3 steps to becoming a counsellor in the UK. I will leave a link to the BACP website which outlines these 3 steps very simply and summarizes them for you, and I will also try and leave a link if possible to all the accredited courses. If not, it will be on the BACP website on the link that I'm going to leave in the description box. Let's now talk costs. Doing this course is very expensive. Like I said, that's one of the things that put me off doing this course originally. The masters itself will probably range from about £5,000 to £8,000 per year. So over 3 years, I'm going to be paying just over 18k just for the tuition. It depends on the university. Some universities, you know, charge 12,000 a year. It just depends on the area and the location and the city that you're planning on going to. Outside of the tuition fee, you will have to pay for your personal therapy, which can range from £20 to £60 depending on where you are. But be sure to ask for a student discount, because a lot of counsellors do know that trainee counsellors will come to them for that purpose of getting their 35 hours. So my counsellor gave me a student discount, of which I'm really grateful. You can do your sessions online, in person, over the phone. You can discuss that with your therapist. Another thing you have to pay for is obviously travel to your placement when you do begin. I haven't started mine until next year, so I don't know that just yet. And you may have to pay for supervision, because for every 8 hours that you spend with a client, you have to spend 1 hour doing supervision, which sometimes is usually paid for. So also that's a cost that you have to also consider. And you also have to pay for insurance. Because you're working with clients in your placement, you have to pay for insurance when you are now working with those people. I don't know exactly how much that is. If I do find it somewhere, I'll put it on the screen, but I don't know yet. And like I said, when I now begin, I'll update you guys and I'll let you guys know how much it is. So unfortunately in the UK, the student finance does give a loan for master students, but it's quite small. So at this year they're giving just over 11.2k, I believe. So unfortunately for me, they are giving me that 11k over 3 years. So that's 11k divided into the 3 years, which is nowhere near enough what I need, because my course is £6,000 per year. So if I'm getting now just under 3k every single year, I now have to fund the other 3k myself every year. So they are technically paying not much for me, so the rest of it is self-funded, unfortunately. So that's all the information I have on how to become a counsellor or a therapist in the UK, and I hope you learned so much from it. And if you know someone who is wanting to become a counsellor or a therapist in the UK, you know, share this video with them and let them know. And I will be uploading another video next week with other information, and I hope to see you. Do not forget to subscribe, to like, and to leave a comment if you have any questions. Also feel free to follow me on my socials, which are also in the description box down below. So before I begin and get into today's, and it's going to be specifically in line with the UK's it's going to be in line with how the UK qualifies. Okay, let's do that again. So obviously this video is going to be in line with how to apply for okay, what's the next thing? So I don't know exactly how that would work, like if there would be a... So those are the main criteria. So the masters itself will range from probably... So step 2 to becoming a counsellor is step 3. So until next week, bye guys.